caring for children has always been one of the deepest and most satisfying things a human being can do. The world is changing, and there's never been a more important time for childcare business owners to start marketing their businesses. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything that can help you grow your childcare business and stand out in a crowded market. Welcome to the Childcare Business Growth Podcast. Hey everyone, it's Nick here from Childcare Business Growth. I hope you guys are having a super awesome day. So I'm on right now with the amazing Courteney Donaldson from Christie Co. And today we're going to talk about acquisitions. We're going to talk about the current market. We're going to talk about challenges. And hopefully Courtney's going to give you some, well, I know she's going to give you some really good value for those of you that are looking to acquire more settings, looking to expand, and just to give you an overview of where the market is at right now. So Courtney, I am very, very grateful for you, first of all, giving up your time to be on. Do you mind just giving everyone a quick overview of yourself? Because I will never do it anywhere near enough justice. So you tell everyone a little bit about you, if that's okay.
That's great. Hi, Nick. Thanks for your time as well this morning. So I'm Courteney Donaldson, and I'm Managing Director of Childcare and Education Sectors at Christie Co. So Christie Co is a business. We're headquartered in the UK, but we have an international network of offices across Europe, and equally our services extend into the US, Asia, China, Middle East, and most parts of the globe. My team and I, we specialise within the childcare centre markets. So we advise owners and operators and investors that are looking to either come into the childcare markets, or they have an existing business and they're wanting to expand and grow their business, be that in their domestic territory, or if they're wanting to acquire centres overseas and branch out. I'm a chartered surveyor, professionally by trade, and I'm also a cooperative trustee of the UK's largest membership organisation, the National Day Nurseries Association. So I help them support their members on all business, property and advisory services. It's quite a wide range of services we provide. So everything from business conception, if someone's thinking about opening a daycare centre and they do a business plan to think about that, through to helping them find finance to open that setting, through to rent reviews, lease renewals, and then when they come to sell, when they want to retire, we help them at the end of that process as well.
Nice. So is that a kind of, so I know obviously the core service around helping buy and sell, those additional services there, the support you provide, is that a like a package you guys do for people then? How does that work?
It all depends. Our expertise is understanding early years and understanding childcare centres. So it just depends what operators need at certain points in time. So, for example, if we maybe, for example, a daycare centre manager, she might have come into a small inheritance. She might be thinking about opening her own. It might be her ambition to open her own setting, but she doesn't quite know where to start. So she might create a business plan, and we would help her refine that business plan, because obviously it's a lot of time, effort and financial capital to be deployed into creating your own business. So we'll help them sense check whether or not the business plan is, realistic and in keeping with expectations. We'll help them then raise funding via their bank or their investors to raise money to either find a plot of land to build a new children's centre or to buy a nursery. If it's a leased property, they might have a landlord. They might need help with rent reviews or renewing their lease. So it's all those different property sort of business services that relate to ensuring a high quality, sustainable sort of childcare centre that's successful in the longer term.
Nice, excellent. So you do a lot. I didn't realize you guys did so much. So that's very eye-opening for me. So tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, about what are you seeing in the industry right now? Are you seeing, obviously we're talking a post-pandemic world. What are you seeing going on? Give us a quick overview, if that's okay.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, around the world, daycare is an essential part of communities, and it's an essential part. It's increasingly viewed as essential infrastructure. Essentially more and more parents have got dual working requirements. More and more parents have to work to meet the cost of living, more and more parents recognise the importance of their child accessing really high quality early years education. So the whole profile of the nursery sector, the children's care sector has massively raised, especially post the COVID pandemic. I think around the world, operators, they were often first line responders, keeping their daycare settings open to service the needs of key workers when other businesses were closed. So the profile of early years is raised. I think the academic evidence showing the importance of quality education has been raised, and it's a needs-driven sector. So, it's always been a very strong market globally, but post-pandemic, there's been massive demand from newer investors that are wanting to invest in early years and invest in childcare centres around the world. We've got existing operators around the world that are well established, that actually they want to grow their portfolios, be that in their domestic location or make acquisitions overseas, because if they buy a children's centre business overseas, they're learning different attributes from that business that they can actually incorporate within their own business. So it's all about knowledge gain and growth alongside the prospects for, financial growth within that business as well. So we've seen a real tsunami of new interest being expressed in the sort of early years children's daycare markets around the world.
And do you find that that's coming for? So I was talking to someone last night in Canada around this, that there's going to be this huge growth now because of this new funding stream that they have. But do you find that it's more individuals, or do you find it's more larger change or private investors? What is it that you're seeing right now?
It's a complete mix, Nick, across the board. So we have individuals. They might have a background in early childhood education and care, and they might want to establish their own business. It might be an operator. I mean, lots of our clients around the world, they open their own daycare centre because they couldn't find the right childcare for their own children. So they've opened one nursery. And then before you know it, that business is doing so well. All the parents are saying, this is great, but we'd love a service closer to us. Can you open a setting near to me? And some of those owners, before they know it, they've gone from quite a small business catering for their own children to 4 or 5 nurseries. And once you get to that stage, they're then thinking, well, actually, I need the infrastructure. I've got a central support team. We've got these great policies, procedures, curriculum. And I actually do want to expand because parents are saying how amazing our service is, and they want our service in their area. So they're growing as well. We've then got the global groups, in the States, Bright Horizons Family Solutions, in the UK, headquartered Busy Bees. They're spanning multiple territories, US, Australia, New Zealand, across Europe. So they're all looking to expand, but they're looking to buy high caliber, high quality nurseries, either small groups or larger national groups. And then investors, obviously, those of us that have worked in this space for many decades and a long time, we really value what operators are achieving in terms of high quality. But increasingly, I think investors are turning their eye to the sector saying, wow, this is a great space. We want to be involved. All the sort of business dynamic and drivers are showing how important early years is, and therefore they want to become engaged in that opportunity.
And it's very interesting because we've had a couple of clients recently that have sold to, private investor groups, etc., or some of our clients are looking to expand themselves. Might be 2 or 3 settings, want to expand their portfolio up to 10, for example. Very, very interesting to see. So we talked about the buyer side. Tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, about the typical kind of seller you're looking at. What are you seeing right now? Is it people that are just disheartened, retirement? What is it that you're seeing typically, that type of seller that's coming to you?
I think in terms of the type of seller, it's a really wide range of sellers, from sort of individual owners that might have one centre through to regional groups, through to national and indeed international groups. Obviously, when COVID hit in Q1 2020, a lot of people would have had their exit strategies planned, and they've planned to exit in 20 or 21, but COVID had such an impact on their operations, the business performance, the financial performance of those businesses, their plans went on hold. Everyone went into business survival mode. But since that time, as we came out in different phases around the world, we've really seen an increase in operators that actually they're exhausted. It's been really tough for them. It's been quite hard for some owners. Smaller settings, smaller groups the owners have had to make quite critical decisions at very short notice on a daily basis. Globally, we have some major workforce crises. And I think globally, there's a general recognition that early years does not receive the true recognition it deserves in terms of a career for young, aspiring career professionals to go into. It's still generally perceived as quite sort of lowly valued work, which clearly isn't the case, because certainly from my experience, early years workers, the most influential people in a child's first 5 years. Those first 3 to 5 years are critical. So we have seen owners exiting because of the general weight and burden and exhaustion post-COVID. But equally, we've seen owners exiting because the markets have been incredibly strong in the last 12 to 18 months. And some of the prices that the best quality businesses are achieving, they're at an all-time high in many locations. And so owners are thinking, gosh, after 20 years of running my business, actually, I'm coming up to a certain anniversary, and now is the time I want to actually change my direction. I don't need the responsibility that come with running my business day in, day out. And actually, I can see that there are some buyers out there that, are very keen to buy my business and pay me a really good price. So there's lots of different drivers, Nick.
For me, I think just listening to you there just says everything we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, particularly with us, my wife and I, when we sold our childcare centre in December. For us, it was very much a point of, again, I can relate to some of those things you spoke about. You've gone through COVID, etc. But for us, it was more about family was the biggest thing. And at that time, we were focusing on, we had other business interests. We were focusing so much around, our time was being so absorbed into the childcare side of things that, it was right, we need more time with our family. This is where we want to go, different direction, etc. And I think it's important, isn't it? I should imagine you come across a lot of people right now that maybe are more reflective on maybe where they're at in terms of the business after coming out the back of the pandemic and looking at what are their options, what do they want to do? Because you can almost get tunnel vision and get so stuck into the day-to-day that you don't have that clear exit strategy around where do you want to go. And then all of a sudden it's been, oh my gosh, I've been through the middle the last 2 years or so. I need a break. Reset. Do you see a lot of that right now as well?
Couldn't agree more. I did a webinar a few weeks ago, and there are lots of challenges for business owners. Just the weight of running the business, the responsibility. You're looking after parents' most prized assets, and then all the staffing challenges and everything else that goes with it. And it can be really challenging. And off the back of this webinar, I had a few messages from those that have been watching, and they were saying, you know what, it was fantastic, actually, to look at things from a different perspective. We're so involved in the hands-on day-to-day granularity of just functioning. Actually, sometimes we don't have the opportunity to stand back and hear about what's happening in the wider sector and hear about the perception of the markets and the demand from investors and other buyers and those different things. And I think that's really, it's having that time to be able to reflect on what's happening outside of day-to-day operations. You mentioned as well about just your experience of selling your business and the challenges. And I had a celebratory completion lunch a few weeks ago with a husband and wife. They've been in business for 25 years. They had a portfolio of 10 childcare centres, and they've made the really difficult. I mean, a lot of our clients, it's a really difficult decision to sell because 100%. They're so passionate about their business. They've created a real legacy. So the idea of selling can be really quite challenging just to even come to terms with that. But having made that decision, we successfully sort of sold their business confidentially, and we were having lunch, and the wife of the partnership, she basically said to me, she said, Courtney, having sold our business, I actually had one full night's sleep. I had a whole night where I didn't even wake up. And she said, I haven't experienced that in 25 years. When they're on holiday, they're still at the end of the phone if anything arises. And invariably something does arrive, even with the best managers in the world. Things do crop up, and so they can't take that breather. So it's really, I think we really enjoy just helping those business owners from the entire business life cycle, from the conception of their business and helping them with the shaping of that business plan, through often many decades of operations, through to actually them then they're benefiting from all their hard work and going on to the next stage of life. And often at the moment it is to spend time with sort of grandchildren increasingly, or their children have just gone to university and their husband may have retired, and actually they're just ready for a breather. The other interesting thing, Nick, is that over the years, the number of times we help clients to sell their business, and they're so they're sad to sell their business, but they also, at that point in time, it was the right thing for them to do personally. And they then take a couple of years out, and some of them can't keep away, so they'll come back after 3 or 4 years of their non-compete agreement, and they'll say, "Oh, Courtney, we had 5 or 6 nurseries. It got too big, but we'd love to come back. We'd love to buy one special nursery. We want to have one final nursery." And so I think there's a real passion and a real emotion around that. So a lot of our clients, they will come back into the space because they're so passionate about what they do.
Oh,
they can't stop.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for us. I don't want anyone to listen to this podcast and think, oh, you should be looking to sell your business. For us, it's a case of the most important thing that we're trying to help them with here at Childcare Business Growth, and I'm sure you're exactly the same, is what's right for you, your personal life, your family life, your long-term goals. And if your goal is to have 10 settings or 100 settings, that's great. We'll support you, and I'm sure you're exactly the same. You'll support them to get to where they want to be. And I just think it's looking at that stage of life. And the most important thing I think people should take from this last 10 minutes is being crystal clear on, what do you want from your business? What is the ultimate goal here? Is it a case of that, like you said, you've been in tunnel vision for the last 2.5 or 3 years, that you're just focusing, you haven't had a chance to raise your head above water and even look at other options, or realize that the market is so, opportunist right now? Or is it a case of, do you know what, I'm done. I'm in a situation where that's it. It's hard. And I remember someone mentioned to me a few years back, there's a very difficult phase between going from 2 settings up to 10, and that growth curve. There's, you go through maybe 1 or 2, you've got a lifestyle business, you can support yourselves and, still have some holidays, etc. But there's that uncomfortable growth phase, isn't there, going from 2 to 10? What have you seen there, Courtney? Have you seen anything around that people struggling between that phase and they want to try and get past that so then they can bring in a senior leadership team? What's your thoughts around that part?
No, absolutely. And that really is a very critical phase. And when you say 2 to 10, I think it does depend on the size of the settings. So if you have 2 settings that are in the US that are 200 places, that's quite different to say two centres in the UK that might be just 35 places each. So it's that capacity level. And I quite agree. It's that midpoint that you get to a certain level. It might be 5 or 6. And at that point, just to maintain quality, to have the functionality within the business in terms of HR and accounts and marketing, and then all just the sort of the nuts and bolts of operations, the operator, the owner, they can't do that on their own. And increasingly the responsibility of managers at that level start to change, because more and more sort of responsibilities are placed on their shoulders. So it can then be quite a challenge to step to the next level. And that's where often we'll speak with owners and they'll say to us, do you know what, I'm going to stay where I am, because actually I like to be in control. I like to be hands-on, and this is a comfortable level for us. And others will say, actually, we do want to now move to the next level, and we want to be more strategic and oversee the growth with the right people in post. And that's one of the challenges, finding the right people to then come in as, say, the ops directors or a new managing director if someone's wanting to move into a chief exec role. And the other thing, I think it was so critical what you said about, what do you want from your business? Because this is about business growth, but equally it's about the individual businesses and how those businesses are performing. So, occasionally we'll advise on businesses that are, individual nurseries as part of a small group, and every single nursery is firing on all cylinders. They've got amazing staff, they've got amazing marketing strategies, they've got a fabulous reputation. That childcare centre is the go-to centre in the area for that community, and great occupancy, great fees, everything's well controlled, good reinvestments, and it's doing really well. But then we have other operators that actually, they may have perhaps lost sight of that, and they're thinking growth is about the number of settings, the number of nurseries. Well, no one really wants a portfolio of 50 nurseries if all 50 nurseries are trading with 40 or 50% occupancy, because your management team is spread so thinly. So in every group, once you get over 8 or 9 or 10 settings, you'll always have some of those childcare centres that need more attention than others for a variety of reasons. But it is a challenge, and you're quite right. You have to be asking yourself, what do you want? Because these aren't necessarily lifestyle businesses. I think they are very intensive, aren't they? And they're with you 24/7. So for some people, it's one setting. For others, they have, different objectives and different strategic plans. And that's always a big question for first-time buyers. We have lots of individuals that come to us and they'll say, I really want to get into the early years space. I'm really passionate about early years. And you have to ask them, what's your business skills? What's your early years expertise? This is a labour and time consuming business, and you have to have the right attributes to be successful at that, or buy in those skill sets and gain, the extra support to do that successfully.
See, there's one point, there's a question I have for you, but there's one more I want to come back to as well. But tell me, if you don't mind, what would be your top tips right now to someone that's looking at potentially either they might be slightly different. So if you need to adjust the answer, please let me know. But if someone's brand new coming into the sector, or if someone's looking to grow, what would be your top kind of 3 tips that you would recommend that people think about right now?
Absolutely. So if somebody is brand new coming into the sector, be that an individual or be that private equity at both ends of the spectrum with different sort of levels of funding available to them, they have to do their research. They need to understand the sector. They need to understand operations in the territory in which they're investing. You've mentioned their funding arrangements in Canada. Well, obviously every country has different funding arrangements. Every country has different degrees of government support or government subsidies, different dynamics, different staffing ratios, different cultures. So parents will use childcare settings in different ways, and parents expect different things. So the first thing is the sector due diligence on the country in which you're going to invest or open your first setting. Do your market research, understand the market, understand the drivers, understand the demographics of your parent profile, understand in that local area where you're thinking of opening or buying a setting, what will be your USPs? What are the competition doing? What will you do differently? What are you going to do to set yourself apart from other providers to make sure that you become the go-to operator? So I think a lot of it is around due diligence for those coming into the sector, and for them as well. I think, take professional advice, speak to your accountants. If you're going to start your own business, think about your tax planning, and understand the sort of the legislative and regulatory environment in which you're operating as well, which is key. So those are the sort of the key pointers for new entrants. For existing entrants, I think there is so much opportunity and there's so much passion in the sort of childcare centre space around the world. It's being really clear in what you're trying to achieve. So, it is having a clear business strategy. It's being quite clear on what you're looking for in terms of buying a new business. So whether it's 1 setting or 5 settings or 50, what's the things that are important to you in terms of the profile of that centre, the regulatory standards, the length of time that management have served with that business, you know, buying a mature, established group is quite different to buying a group that has a lot of centres that are struggling and failing and might need to be turned around. They're very different skill sets that are required. And I think across both of those areas, it's, you know, speak to other providers, speak to other advisors, keep an eye on the market movements. But while speaking to people, also be mindful of confidentiality, because, you know, it's a very, even though it's a large globe, these are small communities. Yes. And eventually, I think sort of trust and sort of adhering to what you say within those communications is really quite important when you're sort of trying to buy a business. There's a lot of sensitive information that is shared, and, you know, often you'll be asked to enter into a confidentiality agreement, and I think that trust and integrity in that confidential process is really important.
Yeah, but there's so much I could go into off the back of that. I think the big thing, this actually leads me into the next question, or the point I was going to make, is that if anyone's watching this, I think one of the biggest things that any business owner you'll see is, I say this to everyone all the time, no matter what, you know, most people go into business because they love what they do. You know, whether that's they love childcare, whatever business it is, they love what they do. They didn't go into business to learn marketing, sales, operations, finance, all those other things. So I think one of the biggest things here, where this relates to Courtney and the team there, Christie's, is that you need to bring in the expertise, guys, you know, the people that specialize in this every single day, because you might have this vision of where you want to go with your business. You might want to have 2, 10, 20, 100, whatever the number is. But the more you can surround yourself with the specialists in those areas, the quicker you'll achieve your goal. Whether that's just a conversation with them, just a consultation, whatever it is, just go to these experts. Because I think sometimes I'll have conversations with people and they say, hey, I'm looking to grow and I want to find more centers. And, you know, we often say, well, that's not our area of expertise. We can guide, point you in the right direction. But the amount of knowledge that you guys have in this area is phenomenal. I think people need to realize sometimes that you have to make investments. You have to take the time out to have these conversations and really go and speak to experts like obviously Courtney and the team there, because these are the people that do this every single day. Okay. So any one of you that's watching this right now, if you are thinking about whether it's your first center or whether it's, coming into expanding the center, yes, you can look at other successful business owners out there, but remember, they've designed their business their way. Okay. What you need to do is look at industry experts that deal with multiple different types of different types of childcare centers, whether it's a different style of childcare or, you made a very interesting point earlier, Courtney, about the type of care you want to provide, the type of family you want to attract. Because I think sometimes you could go into an area and, you've got this ideal customer in mind, but, that demographic might not be around in that particular location, or there might already be a facility that's catering for that demographic. So then it's really important for someone to challenge your thoughts or your ideas around where do you want to go with the business. I was talking to someone in New Zealand this morning and they, I was saying, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And they said, I never even thought about that. And that's such a major hurdle. So the point I'm trying to say to you guys is, look at the industry experts, wherever you're going out right now, whatever the next step is in your business, whether it's growth, whether it's a first acquisition, moving from a home provider to your own physical location. Look at these experts, have a conversation. So Courtney, I'm very grateful for you jumping on. I could talk to you a long time about this because your knowledge and expertise, I've got 1,000,001 questions, but if someone wanted to reach out to you guys, what's the best way for them to reach out and just to get in contact and to really pick your brain around how you could help them?
Absolutely, Nick. So we're available on all social media networks. And so our website is christie.com and my contact details are on there. And then we also very much, as you say, I think our relationships start with conversations and we welcome opportunity to speak to operators to discuss whatever their plans are. So I can be reached on my UK-based mobile, which is 0783 10 99985. And you're quite right. And there's so many different attributes, I think, for owners to speak to as many operators and professional advisors. It's the due diligence, it's the property side of things. And we a lot of our relationships we've had with investors and providers for decades. And so we enjoy going on that journey with them as they sort of found their business, and we help them grow their business and then help them when they come to retire. And it's making sure that they are, no one wants to really sort of found business and be thinking about sales straight away, but you should always have your exit strategy in mind. So are the decisions you're making today, are they going to be the right decisions for when you come to exit in 5, 10 or 15 years time? Because a lot of my clients, they love this space and they haven't got firm thoughts around their exit strategies. But unfortunately, certain things crop up in life which do force maybe an unplanned decision. And if they do need to sell for a variety of reasons, be they family or health related, and if they need to do that at a certain point in time, then knowing they've made the right decisions to make their business attractive to other buyers, that's a great place to be in, rather than them worrying, thinking, I've not got security of tenure, I've not got this, or, my things aren't in order. So, yeah, we're here to help them along that whole business journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do I just one last point here. If you don't mind me just saying this, a very close friend of mine, has just gone into a situation where he's maybe early 40s, and he's basically got to a point now where he doesn't work at all. He still owns the business, but he doesn't work. He's brought in a senior leadership team to run his business. And it's just really interesting to see, and it happened because of, unfortunately, not to go into detail, but something happened to very close friends of theirs, and it just totally made them rethink. But they were very lucky that the business had the infrastructure, the plan in place, that everything did run without them. But also the plan is there now that if he does ever want to sell that, it's all set up ready to do that. So I think it's really important. That last point, just for us to end on that one, is really important that you do have some type of plan in place around an exit strategy, because, it's all well and good going for 20 years, but then something can happen, as you say, and it can quite easily change things. Yeah. So, Courtney, I'm very grateful for you jumping on. Everyone, if you've got any questions, what I'll do, I'll make sure that we put all Courtney's details down below. Definitely, as Courtney said, very similar to us. We all work around relationships. It's about coming on that journey with you guys. So if you've got any questions for Courtney, make sure you reach out and drop your comments down below as well. And Courtney, thank you so much. Hopefully we can get you on maybe another few months from now and see how the market's doing, maybe the start of 2023, and give us a bit of a catch up from there, if that's okay.
Be delighted to do that, Nick, and I'm sure there'll be an awful lot to report. It has been a truly bumper year across all the global markets, actually. So, be delighted to pick up in the new year.
Perfect. Everyone, thanks for watching. And as always, make sure you follow these videos, like and subscribe to them. And we'll keep you guys coming with more and more content as we continue to do these podcasts. Thanks, Courtney. And I will catch you hopefully in a few months from now.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Take care.
We're on a mission to help business owners just like you to get more customers into their businesses and to help you stand out from your competition. If you'd like to find out more about the ways we can help your business, check out our website at childcarebusinessgrowth.com.